What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Citizens Fancast. Just me today, no special guest. So I do thank my brother last week and the Snobby Boys the week before for taking their time and doing this with me. But we're going solo for now for the next few episodes at least. But that being said, got an exciting episode for today. Going into the Ipswich breakdown. Obviously, Gundogan's back. I'll give my thoughts on that. And there's been some interesting things floating around that I want to discuss as well on as far as some of our players and former players and just a little more transfer news. And then we'll get into a preview for next weekend and we'll be all set. So thank you guys for listening. Make sure to like the video, subscribe on YouTube if you have not already. So that being said, let's get into the match with the starting lineup. So Ederson, Lewis, Akanji, Diaz, Guardiola, Kovacic, Bernardo, De Bruyne, Savio, Haaland, and Doku. I thought Grealish was going to start. Honestly, I didn't expect to have the exact same lineup as the previous week. But regardless, it's a strong lineup considering what we have. I guess Foden was out with an illness. I would assume that he'll be back fairly soon. And still no Rodri, but 2 wins in a row without him. So not too much to complain about there. As far as the goals, we all saw the match. 4-1, Haaland had a hat trick, a penalty in the 12th minute, and then De Bruyne in the 14th minute on an assist from Savio. Haaland again in the 16th minute with an assist from De Bruyne, and then he finished out his hat trick in the 88th, and then 75% possession to City. So getting back with another hat trick already, keeping up his streak of scoring against every Premier League opponent. Just what more can you say about Haaland? Obviously, we went down, wasn't ideal, but within 5 minutes we're up 3-1. So can't have too many complaints, but I'll talk a little more on that goal and what I thought there. But from the start, I noticed that Savio was on the right, Doku on the left. Pep not even trying what he did last week. So I think that just shows his willingness to kind of do what the players are most comfortable with. Because like I said last week, they made that switch on their own. So I think he saw it work better, and you could kind of see from the beginning that it worked better. But Kovacic again in the midfield, playing as a 6 over Rodri. With Rodri, I don't know if he's out on injury or if he's just being rested. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. He deserves rest regardless. So Kovacic has done well, especially I think carrying the ball out of the back. We saw it in the preseason at the Orlando match that he did it then. Did the same thing against Chelsea, just being able to take the ball, if no one presses him, just dribbling through the lines of the defense and kind of making a play from there. So I think that's something where as he gets more time in that role, we'll see him do it a little bit more. Rodri's obviously good at doing that as well. And I think last year Kovacic tried more to play a pass out of there as opposed to carrying the ball himself. So I think that's just showing if he's got the space, got the time, and the willingness, he will take the ball forward. But obviously, we went down 1-0, and I think it's hard with this lineup because Rico's almost a midfielder. I don't necessarily blame Rico, but if he was playing a more defensive role, that's where he would have been. I don't think Akanji really saw the man run in behind him. And plain and simple, I think Ederson could have probably saved it, in all honesty. But it didn't hurt that bad. Obviously, it's way too early to talk goal differential, talk clean sheets, things like that. Would it have been nice? Yes. At times, I feel like you kind of need that kick in the ass to get going. And, with a team like this, when you go down early and you're significantly better than them, it makes it easier, I guess, in a way, to not really toy with them and just kind of kick it into high gear and go for it. But we equalized almost immediately. Penalty not given on the field. I don't understand how it wasn't. It was a pretty clear trip, but the ref ended up eventually making the right call after going to the monitor to review it. But Holland scored. He's always going to score those. And then the pressing, our team's pressing. I don't really know what they were trying to do. Felt like they were trying to play out of the back, and honestly, that kind of plays into our hands, especially when you're looking at the gap in skill level between us and them. You're never going to be able to play out of the back. And Savio pressed, won the ball off the keeper, and De Bruyne essentially passed it in the net from 20 yards out. So it's difficult to see why. I was surprised, honestly, that they didn't kind of just do the low block or whatever and just hang back. It felt like they were trying to play out, and I don't know if our formation invited them to do that a little bit. It felt like we pressed high, but they tried to kind of hit the ball over our attackers into their midfield for the most part instead of playing it on the ground. We won most of those balls. Savio did an incredible job with that, just knowing where to be to cut off those passing lanes, winning the ball back. I don't know exactly how many times he won the ball back, but it felt like at least 10 times. So it was, I think the way they played right into our hands, kind of what we would have wanted them to do. Like I said, I expected them to sit back more. I think as the year goes on, we'll continue to see teams do that, play the low block that I absolutely hate. But regardless, it's going back to the formation. When we have the ball, the way Pep's been playing, it's almost like we play a 3-4-3 in a way, and it's allows De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva to take up space on the wings. And with that, when one of them takes space out on the wing, where De Bruyne did on the third goal, got the ball out wide, played it over the top to Holland. Incredible ball, by the way. But Holland obviously is going to beat the keeper in that scenario every single time. So, but what that allows us to do, and I saw it last week already too with Bernardo Silva, when that space is being taken up outside, there's less bodies in the middle. So when you don't have as many defenders there, Bernardo Silva can take up the space with Holland, kind of equally in line with him, fill that space a little bit better. And it's just a lot of movement from those two, a lot of communication, a lot of just knowing where to be and where is going to be the most effective. So I think I saw a lot of it last week, like I said, with Bernardo Silva. I think he's a little more willing to play in line there. And De Bruyne seems a little more willing to take up the space on the wings, but they both do it a lot. Like I said, it's a lot of movement, filling each other's space, things like that. And it's just their positioning creates a lot of movement for the other player. But, 3-1, I would have liked a little bit more in the first half, in all honesty. We had 2 shots off the bar. Rico Lewis had his chance that he blasted it, in all honesty. I don't think he needed to kill the ball as much as he did, but it didn't really matter. And then De Bruyne had an incredible shot from outside. Keeper froze just a little bit lower, and we probably go up there. But regardless, in the first half, I think, we controlled the match for the most part. The press was a big part of it. Like I said, when we had the ball, or when they had the ball, sorry, it felt like we didn't really give them an option of where to go. And, we'd let their defense come at us a little bit and cut off the passing lanes more than just pressing the man. I think best way to do it, in all honesty, it conserves energy. You're not chasing after the ball like a bunch of 6-year-olds. You're just letting them come to you in a way. And if you hold your lines, they're not going to really do much. Try to play on the counterattack, which is what all teams do, but I don't really think that they had the speed up front to do that. So for the most part, we controlled it. 75% possession is a very high number, something that, I'd expect that, but I didn't expect them to come out the way they did. But for the most part, first half was incredible, and second half, I was really just hoping for more of the same, hoping to get a few more goals. Like I said, it's too early to count goal difference, but when you have a chance to get them, it's never too early to get the goals and to build that advantage. But I was hoping we'd see McAtee, hoping we'd see Grealish since we didn't get to see him last week with that injury, and then obviously hoping that we'd see Gundogan. And then Kovacic went down. I think he's okay for the most part. I think he'll be back next week. I haven't heard too much as far as Pep saying whether or not he's going to be out for an extended period of time. I don't think. I think we would have heard more if he would, but uh, mostly I would like to see if McAtee is part of the plans for this year. If he doesn't get on the field in a match like this, it feels like he's probably not going to play that big of a part unless he absolutely has to. That's just the way I feel it in a match that was kind of over. He did get a couple minutes at the end, as did Matthias Nunez. It makes you wonder where the future is for both of them, because when we have control, obviously, 3-1, they get a goal, it could really open it back up. But I think for the most part, we were in control. I didn't really see that happening or feel like that was going to happen, but you never know. So I could see there just wanting to make sure that it's absolutely killed off, because they did come on once we got that extra goal. But another point I want to point out is Rico Lewis and his positioning. Like I said, in this lineup, he really plays more of a midfielder. And I said about Bernardo Silva taking up that space in the box. Rico Lewis does it as well. He's been doing it incredibly well, taking up space on the outside of the box, just on the edge. Again, allowing more space by dragging those defenders forward. He allows more space for De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva to do what they need to do. Allows more space for the wingers to, find a pass. But the only issue I have with it is when he's in there and he's getting the ball, it kind of feels like at times he doesn't know what to do with the ball. Part of it is just being swarmed by like three people. It's hard to find a pass when that happens. But I would like to see him be able to have a little bit more awareness, just to be able to find a pass from those scenarios. And then obviously he probably deserved a goal. He had the one off the bar, like I said, but it didn't impact the match too much. He's still doing incredible. I've seen a huge jump from last season to this season. I couldn't really be any more impressed at this point. But I assumed when Kovacic went down that we'd see Gundogan come on. Again, I feel like the reason why we didn't necessarily see him come on there is just not knowing his fitness level. I don't know if Pep got a good judge in the day that he got with the team to see where his fitness level's at, to see, because like I said, it was the game could have been blown open by another goal against us. So I see why he put Stones in. Again, get Stones back too, and just let him play that role. Let him play that midfield role and get him back, get him comfortable. Perfect opportunity, in all honesty. You get him match fitness. You don't have to necessarily play him for a full 90. It's less of a risk of injury, and you get him back to the level he needs to be at. Kind of the same thing with Foden last week. Get him a little bit back into it instead of just throwing him right in when you got, full 90 ahead of them and they haven't had an actual match played yet. So I like the choice to put Stones on. Obviously, Gundogan came on. Incredible reception by the fans, as it should have been. I literally got chills when he came on. It's cool to see him return. It's cool to see a player who led us to probably our highest moment. It's hard to argue that it's not our highest moment ever. Just being the captain in a treble season. I know there were some people that were a little concerned about his ruining his reputation, and I don't really see any way that happens. He's a treble captain. He won us the title the year before that, and just, I mean, he won us the FA Cup essentially as well that season. He's been a part of so many pivotal moments, pivotal wins, whatever. I can't say the word, but you know what I mean. He's been a part of so many big moments. I don't think anything he could do at this point would tarnish his reputation, and the fans love him. I feel like it was the perfect time to come back. He's still got his legs, obviously, and he can contribute. He can help take pressure off of Kovacic if Rodri's not available, and be, you know, it's a group effort in my opinion to replace Rodri when he's not there. So Gundogan definitely helps that, and I think it was the perfect time to bring him back. He obviously wasn't enjoying his time at Barcelona, and we got him back on a free. So a free transfer, you can't really complain. But as far as that, I not too much with the match. I mean, like I said, we dominated it. I expect us to dominate. Holland, my man of the match. Only complaint really was things that we really couldn't control. I felt like Diaz and Grealish both got cards extremely easily when they really shouldn't have. But Grealish came on. I thought he did well. I'll talk a little more about Grealish. I got quite a bit to say about him, but I thought he did well. He looked threatening. He looked like he was trying to get in the right positions. He was making the right decisions. It just didn't happen to work out. So 3 more points, top of the league for now on goal differential, and I think there's only 3 other clubs also on 6 points. So can't have a much better start than that. And beating one of the top 6 in the process, you really can't have any complaints. But like I said, we beat a top 6 club last week in Chelsea, and that brings me to the next point of Cole Palmer. I know a lot of people, whenever Palmer does something, he got 3 assists, got a goal for Wolves, they like to throw around, oh, was it a mistake selling Cole Palmer? And I don't think so. And the reason why is he wasn't playing with City. He was never going to get those minutes with City. At Chelsea, he gets to be that guy. He gets to be their best player. He wasn't going to get those opportunities. We don't play the same way as them, and we're never going to. I think the way he plays, he needs to be on the ball a little bit more than he was ever going to get at City. They finished 6th last year with him. Without him, I don't know if they finished top 10, and we won our 4th title in a row. And I think that's the best way to look at it, in my opinion. If you want, was he a good player and had the talent? Yes. But I don't think he ever would have fully peaked at City. And it's mostly because he went and got the minutes. Grealish was still playing over him, and Bernardo was going to be picked over him, and Foden was going to be picked over him. Doku, you could argue that maybe Doku doesn't come in that scenario, but I think we're good with what we have, in all honesty. And I hope he does well at Chelsea. And he didn't do anything against us. And in all honesty, that's the best way to have it, in my opinion. Wish for him to have success, except against us, and he didn't. So that's really just the way to go. I don't have a ton more to say on it, in all honesty. I just feel like, he was never going to get those minutes here, and he got him at Chelsea. And he wasn't going to be our best player in any aspect. So I don't think it was worth keeping him around for another 2 seasons for him to maybe get 10 matches or some Carabao Cup matches. It's not worth it for him, and it's really not worth it for us. We got a good fee. So I think it was really a best case scenario for both players, or for both parties. But as far as injury news, we'll jump into that. I think we're pretty much good. Like I said, I don't know what's up with Rodri. Obviously, Bob is still out. That's not new. He's going to be out for a long time. Foden's illness, I would assume, wouldn't keep him out very long. I don't think Kovacic will be out. I think he'll be back next week. And then we are into the international break again. So very likely we probably don't see Rodri before then. In all honesty, I don't expect to see him at all this weekend. We've been doing just fine without him. I don't expect West Ham to be too much of a challenge. So I I'd expect us to kind of keep moving forward with what we have, move maybe a few pieces in and out of the lineup as players get closer to that match fitness level. But I think as we get past this international break and then past the next international break as well, you'll really see which players are going to move forward, are going to be the guys that we roll with week in, week out. Again, you're going to see a few pieces moved in and out. For that's what Pep does. He likes to rotate the squad, keep trying new things, figure out what works best. So then by the time you're to that December, January, February portion where we go on that run and win every match, he knows who the guys are going to be. He knows who's going to step up. He knows who's going to be the ones he can rely on and who is going to have to prove themselves a little bit more. So he'll keep trying things. He'll keep moving pieces in and out. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised to see Foden in the lineup this week. So we will continue to see what he does there. Appreciate it. For those who aren't watching, compliment on the background. Again, if you're not watching, you don't really see that. But yeah, we got the signed kits there in the back, 2 of them. So yeah, and of course the city curtains and the city print up there at the top. US tour scarf up there as well from this summer. So all my city stuff, I have it all over the room. It's over there as well, up on the wall. So city stuff all over. So, but anyway, moving into some of the transfer news. So, like I said, Gundogan, I already gave my thoughts on that, and we are looks like finally ending the Cancelo saga. Offer in from Saudi. Looks like he's going to accept it, and hopefully he's going to accept it. I should say. I'm not a fan of speaking bad on our players. I think Cancelo's a little bit of a different story in that one, just because it felt like when he was here, the problems he caused, I don't think there's a spot for him in our squad. I feel like I've talked about this extensively on my own with the Snobby Boys. Just it's not going to work out unless he changes his attitude, plain and simple. I think he's got to. It's the best case scenario, and if he's got a history of causing problems at his club. If he's going to do that, why not do it for more pay? That's the way I see it. As bad as that might be to say, I think this is the best offer for City. I think it's one of the best offers he's going to get, just because he does have the reputation of being an issue and causing problems if he's not getting that playing time. So if he's not going to get it here at City, which I think it's out the window, Pep's not playing him. If it came down to Pep or Cancelo, I don't know anyone who would take Cancelo in that. And I think it's time to stop loaning him and just kind of end this once and for all, and just get him moved out of the club and moved off our books. So we just don't have to deal with it and go through the questions every single summer of, is he going to stick around? Is he not? And it feels like it just feels like his time is never going to come back here at City. So right. So like Lando said here, it's not, he's caused his own situation. He's not, if he's going to act like a child, we have to treat him like a child, plain and simple. So, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. If he's having childish behavior as a grown man, and he was replaced by a kid at the time. I mean, Rico Lewis was 17 and he threw a fit. Instead of fighting for his position and fighting for his time in the squad, he chose to just sit there and complain and say, I'm the best in the world, so why shouldn't I be playing? But we've shown numerous times that Pep has shown numerous times, if you're not going to fight for the squad and you don't want to be here, he has no problem letting you leave. And I think that's the best thing about City is they create this this family aspect in a way where it's like you need to fight for us, and if you're not going to fight for us and you don't want to be here, then move out. Just go somewhere else, because if we're not all working towards the same goal, then we can't succeed. And I think that's what everyone understands here. You have so many players who have stayed and fought for their spot. I mean, Ake had an awful first season and he could have left, and he chose to stay and fight for his spot. And now look at him. I'd consider him a top 5 defender in the league. And that might be low, in all honesty. It's the things like that. And I don't think he ever had the mentality here that he needed. He was a great player. He still is a great player. But if you're going to just come in and cause problems, then it's not worth keeping you around. So I'd expect him to accept that offer. I think he's smart enough to know that he's doesn't have a future here. So the other one that I saw that was a little bit interesting today, Matheus Nunes, potential loan. It looks like Atletico Madrid is interested in him, in loaning him in. I don't know where they're finding all this money from to buy Alvarez, buy Conor Gallagher, and then loan in Nunez as well. But he's a hard one for me. I see the talent there. I see the potential there. I see what he can offer. Community Shield, I thought he came on. He did well. He made some mistakes. I'd say one of them led to the goal in a way, but for the most part, when you can see what he offers, in my opinion, you can see that he's been. I think Pep trusts him more than, say, the Phillips signing and things like that. He sees the potential there and the ability. I see it there too. You see these flashes of brilliant moments, but it still doesn't seem to fully connect. I think everyone is hoping that clicks. I don't expect City to give up on him if they. I don't expect City to give up on him, whether they loan him out or whether he stays. I think they will continue trying. I think if he's willing to stay, like I said, and put in the work and continue to try to better himself and earn that spot in the starting lineup, I think that he's got a chance to have a future here. But he's running out of time, in my opinion. I think he's got to really just get it to click soon. Otherwise, it's not really gonna go anywhere. And like I said, I feel bad if it doesn't. I think he's a great player. I think he's got a ton of potential in this City squad. But if it's the mistakes that you have to see improvement on, and I don't think that I see a ton of improvement there. So not giving up on him. I hope he succeeds. I'd love to see him succeed for City. If he goes out and gets a loan and maybe gets some good minutes under his belt, learns some things, comes back and is ready to get back going in the squad, I don't see an issue with that either. That's why we loan him instead of just selling him out. So we'll see what happens there. I think the deadline is this Friday, I believe, the 30th. If that is, yes, the 30th, I think, is when that ends. So I'd expect to see a little more movement here and there. I did see the potential of maybe even McAtee going out again, even though Pep said that he'd be a part of the squad. So I'd love McAtee to stay. A huge fan of him, but I don't know. Like I said, he hasn't gotten the minutes yet, and it doesn't feel like Pep fully trusts him. So he's got to do what he's got to do on his end to gain that trust from Pep. But the next conversation that I want to get into is I feel like it's a very polar conversation for City fans that for some reason we get into every single year. I don't know what sprouted it this time. I'm fully on one side here, but the Jack Grealish argument. I don't know why there's so many so-called City fans who continue to attack Grealish. In my opinion, if you're not supporting our players, again, like I said, Cancelo is a different issue. If you're supporting the players that are helping our club, they're working towards our club, working in the same direction. If you see those players doing that, I think you really need to support them. And I don't think Grealish has done anything to show that he's not. Obviously, he didn't have the best year last year, but he's he's the reason we won the treble. I mean, come on, guys. Like, I don't know what we're doing, but I I'm gonna give my full thoughts on this, and then that's it. I don't want to really talk about this conversation anymore because I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to clip it, and then whenever anyone argues with me, I'm going to just give them this clip. So, Jack Grealish, in my opinion, by far the best defensive wing in our squad. He came on Saturday. Immediately, he was tracking back on defense. He was winning the ball back. He was stopping shots from getting off. Like I said, if they would have made it 2-3, you've got a match on your hands. So 2-3 could really have messed it up. But Grealish came back, helped, won the ball back, moved forward. His hold-up play. I know people don't like saying that, oh, he's got good hold-up play, but he truly, truly does because he can hold up the ball. He can take on defenders, where in the aspect of he can have multiple defenders pressuring him, which opens up space for another player to run into. He can find said player who can find a Haaland or a Bernardo Silva or a Gundogan or a Foden. You don't see him get as many assists because there's so many times where he will pass the ball to the player who's getting the assist. That doesn't show up on the stat sheet. You got to watch the game and see what happens. You can't just look at the match rating to figure out what he does. But by taking on that pressure, he's creating space for other players. In this squad, he doesn't need to score an assist. We have incredible players, incredible talented players. De Bruyne, Foden, Haaland, Bernardo Silva. We had Alvarez who just left. Gundogan, Rodri, Doku. So many good players that can get the goals, can get the assists. He doesn't need to be that guy. And if he needed to be that guy, he could be. He full well could be. But moments, I've got about 5 or so moments here that Jack Grealish offered to our squad that show what he brings. 2022 semifinal, Real Madrid. He had 2 shots cleared off the line. If either one of those go in, we'd have been in the final. Either one. So from the start there, in his first season at the end, that was the moment for me where I saw Jack Grealish kind of turn the page and really show what kind of player he was going to be for us. 2023, he scored that goal against United. Then there was that whole BS offside call with Rashford and whatever. He put us up in that match, and I truly believe without that call, we win that match. But it didn't work out. People forget that he scored that goal. He scored the game winner in a title fight against Arsenal at the Emirates. It was a 3-1 win. He scored the second goal. That's the game winner. Last year, away at Luton, he scores. We don't win the match without that goal. He also scored against Palace and Spurs, 2 matches that we drew in. So that's 5 points that we would not have gotten last year without Jack Grealish. We don't get those 5 points, we don't win the title. So you can go and look and say, oh, he's only got this many goals, this many assists. But at the end of the day, we don't win titles without him. He was a pivotal part of the treble season. He had the most chances created by an English player ever in a Champions League campaign in that season. And at the end of the day, too, I've seen him put so many crosses in where it's just not his fault if the player can't finish the cross when he's putting a good ball in. And people like to complain or compare him to Doku and Savio, who are incredible players in their own right. And this isn't a dig at them at all, but you look at Doku's stats last year. He played 9 more matches than Grealish, and he had 3 goals and 10 assists. If you take out the Bournemouth match, in which he had a goal and 4 assists, He only has 2 goals and 6 assists. Again, that's not an issue. He doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to do that in every single match. That's not the point. The point is we're attacking Grealish for playing 9 less matches and having fairly similar stats. I mean, the assists are low, I will admit that, but it's like I said, so many passes to the assist that he's providing that you don't get a stat for. It's the hockey assist if you want to look at it that way. So it just felt like every time Grealish got going last year, he had an injury. He'd pick something up and it would kill the form that he had just built up. He just got going and then something would happen. So I think it's hard to look at last year, but when you look at he gave us 5 points in December, and without those 5 points, we don't win the title. And it's things like that. Everybody looks at the Oscar Bob goal against Newcastle. Incredible, yes. But that's the point. We just won a treble. We just won 4 matches in a row, or 4 titles in a row, sorry. And you have these people that are complaining about everything. I see people complaining about Doku, complaining about Pep, complaining about Grealish. Lower your fucking standards, because we won a treble. We won 4 titles in a row. And I don't know what else you want this team to do. We're not going to win a treble every single year. It's just not going to happen. It's not possible. We're the best club in the world. We're the best run club in the world. Every player has a role. Every player contributes. I pointed out these moments for Grealish. I said the one with Oscar Bob. I could go through every single player in the lineup and point out things that they've done to help us win a trophy. And I will sit here and do it every single week if I have to. But it's unrealistic to, every single week, every player is not going to have the best match of their life. It's impossible. And that's why we have so many talented players. Grealish did well on Saturday. Doku did well on Saturday. Savio did well on Saturday. I don't feel like Bernardo had his best match. Who cares? Who cares? It's one match. Let's not overreact. Because Bernardo Silva, he also won us that treble. He won us that semifinal against Madrid. So to attack players for one match, and it's unrealistic. It's not fair to the players and what they've done and what they've accomplished in this squad, in my opinion. And I find it hard to believe that the people doing this are true fans. I've muted on a numerous amount of City accounts in the last 2 or 3 days, just because it's annoying. And it's creating, I'm just trying to create a community of good people. I know that there's good people out there in the City fan base. I think we have the best fan base in the world, in all honesty. But it's the ones like this that give our fan base a bad name. They make us look like idiots, and they make us look like a bunch of greedy little rich kids, in all honesty, for lack of a better way to put it. Because we can't win every trophy, and we're never going to be able to win every trophy. And there might be a time when Pep leaves where we don't win trophies for a couple of years. And I know there's a lot of other people out there too, that's not going to change anything. Obviously, we want us to succeed. We would love to win the treble every single year, but it's just not realistic. And when that time comes, if it comes, there's going to be people that leave. And it's going to kind of be a I told you so moment, because they're creating these unrealistic expectations, this unrealistic vibe around the fan base in a way that just isn't needed in any aspect. So it's frustrating for me to see. I try to ignore it. It's hard to ignore at times just because it's all over. And I don't understand it. I don't understand why you're not supporting your players. I mean, Grealish said last year that he can't even he deletes his social media apps because people are so toxic. People forget that these are real humans too. And, they're going out there week in and week out for our entertainment. And we return the favor by being a bunch of assholes to them. That doesn't seem very fair. If they're working their ass off week in and week out to help this club and to try to propel us to those trophies and to these high points, there's no reason to do anything other than support them. And that's just the way I see it. And I know there's a ton of other people who are the same way. I don't like getting down on players at all because they don't deserve it. I couldn't do any better. I know that for a fact. And I know there's a hell of a lot of people complaining on Twitter or wherever that couldn't do better either. And I think sometimes you just have to stop, slow down, look in the mirror and say, maybe I could cut him a break here. And there's times to criticize, but you got to draw the line between criticism and just plain out attacking a player, in my opinion. So that's my opinion on Grealish. That's my opinion on the entire squad. Like I said, I will do this for every single player if I absolutely have to, because in my opinion, they've gathered my unwavering support through just being a part of this club. Being trusted to be in this club and be a part of this club shows that, you know, they deserve my trust, in my opinion. So that's where I land on that. Let's get into the preview for West Ham, and we'll wrap this up, and I'll give you guys your Monday night back. So Saturday in the late kickoff spot, we got West Ham at West Ham, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't even look up what they've done this year. So bear with me for a second so I can take a look at the table. So West Ham is on 3 points with 1 win and 1 loss lost to Villa in the first week. I don't know why I didn't remember that. I watched that match. They looked okay. In all honesty, I didn't think they were super outplayed by Villa, in all honesty, but I didn't think it was necessarily the best match all around from either team. So West Ham's beatable. Early in the season, going there is a little worrying for me, but if I was to predict, I'll 2-0 win, in my opinion, for City. But they beat Palace this weekend, and that's it. I mean, again, a 2-0 win against Palace doesn't frighten me too much. I know it's still early. I know we could still have a hiccup, but from what I've seen, we looked better, in my opinion, this week than we did last week. So I think we'll just continue to improve as the season goes on. I think everyone's good. Everyone's healthy for the most part. Like I said, obviously Bob isn't. We don't have Rodri, but I'm truly not concerned with the squad we have. We just got Gundogan back. That's just more depth. If I was to predict a lineup, I think we kind of see the same thing that we've seen the last 2 matches. I do think Foden slots in. If I was to guess, based on what I've seen, I'd say maybe he comes in for Bernardo or Doku, just because, like I said, Bernardo didn't have the best match last time, but I could see him coming in for Doku just because I feel like Savio had a better match than Doku this past weekend. So keep Savio in, give Doku a break, and then we'll get into the international break. But for the most part, I don't expect a ton of changes. I think the defense will stay the same. They haven't really shown a reason to not be trusted. And then obviously if De Bruyne and Haaland are healthy, they're going to be out there every single week. And I think we're kind of getting to the same point with Foden, assuming he's healthy. Wasn't fully fit for the first match, had an illness for the second match. So I would expect that Pep will try to work him into the lineup for this match as he regains that fitness and gets back to hopefully the level we saw last season. And I don't see any reason why he wouldn't either. So I'd expect us to improve a little bit more, play a little bit better. Again, on the road, anything can happen. It's, that's what the great thing is about this league. Anything can happen at any given time. But I'd expect us, I don't think our defense has really shown a reason that they can't be trusted at this point. So I would expect them to, keep with the same defense, and we'll roll forward. Kovacic in the midfield again, filling in for Rodri. And I'd love to see Grealish start. I really would, and prove some people wrong, get a goal or something, get an assist, maybe both. Hat trick would be cool, but I don't expect that just because it's not what we need from him. So, but I do expect to win 3 more points. We'll go into the international break on 9 points, and then I feel like after this first international break is when the season really starts rolling and we get into the thick of it. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to the match this weekend. And that's all I got for you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it every single week. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube, like the video on YouTube. I'm trying to get my subscribers up, very low at the moment. But I do appreciate you guys watching, whether you're on YouTube or on Twitter or you're listening after on Spotify. I appreciate all of it. So thank you guys so much. Again, I'll be back on my own next week, but you know where to follow me if you're already watching on Twitter. Citizens Fancast on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and then you can go follow the podcast on YouTube and Spotify. But like I said, I'll be back next week, and we'll break down the West Ham match, and then not really preview much because we'll be headed into the international break, and I don't know why we need to do that again. But anyway, thank you guys for watching.